Welcome to the Wandering Tangent podcast. I'm BJ, with me is Jeff, and today we're talking about the unholy abomination that is the Star Wars Holiday Special.
This is a great moment, BJ, because we have been picking a lot of movies that we enjoyed watching, and I couldn't decide on anything. I had so many things I wanted to select, so we finally talked for a while and we chose this one, which is something that most people have a very strong opinion about for obvious reasons.
You say we chose this.
It's true. I was like, fine, we're just going to do this.
I would like the audience to know that by we, he means him.
Yep. That's how we make unanimous decisions. That's the process. Yeah.
He's lying through his teeth here.
Yeah.
We take turns choosing. This was his choice. First, it was going to be something else. And he's like, I don't want to do that one. Everyone talks about that one. Let's do this one. I'm like,
yeah,
we have to.
Everyone has talked about this one. There's a lot of people that have discussed this movie. A lot.
Well, no, what I was saying is that the plan was originally to watch something different. Like,
yeah, you're right.
We had other spreadsheet, everything. We were like, no, everyone talks about this other movie. Let's do something no one else has talked about. Let's do Star Wars Holiday Special. And okay. I should note, this is not the first time I've watched the Star Wars Holiday Special. This is, in fact, the second time. Both times have been Jeff's fault.
Yeah. Well, many years ago, I was curious because I actually saw it on a Weird Al music video. I had never known about the holiday special, never heard about it, lived a life of Star Wars in many ways, like many fans do. And then I watched a Weird Al thing. I don't even remember which one it was, but there's a scene. Oh, it's like white and nerdy, right?
Yeah, it's white and nerdy.
It was featured in that, and I thought, that's strange. I wonder what that movie is. And then I found out it was actually a real thing. It's a real Star Wars movie that was made. Well, I guess you could use the word made. I mean, it was kind of conjured into existence with a lot of strange ideas coming together. It wasn't made like a normal Star Wars movie. And we can go into there's so much to say and talk about.
It is, in fact, a made-for-TV special. It's only been officially broadcast once, so any copy out there is not official. It hasn't been rebroadcast. It's never been officially released. I think I read somewhere they cut the cartoon part of that, and that's on Disney+, but the rest of the special is not. This is probably the one smart thing Disney has done with Star Wars is to continue to officially unacknowledge the existence of the holiday special.
Yeah, we'll just pretend like it doesn't exist, even though it's obvious that it did.
It only exists because we had the misfortune of the VCR having been invented before this came out.
So without the VCR, this would have been like gone. It would have disappeared.
And the universe would have been better for it.
Okay. I don't know. Yes, a lot of suffering would have been averted if it had been erased, but I think there's something to learn at least from this, because you have all these people who just made this great movie, but then this happens, and going into the details of everything that happened around it, it's kind of educational. I don't know if it's enjoyable educational.
Nothing about the Star Wars Holiday Special is enjoyable.
Yeah, well, I watch bad movies sometimes. You occasionally will watch a bad movie, right? It's fun to watch something that's a horrible movie that was just horribly made. There's something fun about that, but there's a point in which something is so bad that it becomes just torturous to watch, that it goes beyond silly and ridiculous and laughable to something worse.
There is very different gradient of bad. There's something that seems like it should have been good, so it's bad because it doesn't reach its potential. There's the thing that people often aim for and miss of it's so bad it's good. And then on the other side of it's so bad it's good, there is it's so bad it's painful to watch.
Yeah, this is like the darkest side of the dark side of filmmaking.
I am looking at my notes of when I watched this last night, and I kept notes of how far I had gone in it and my feeling at the time. To quote from my notes, 10 minutes in, I want to die.
Okay. Well,
about 20 minutes in, I'm like, I am done with this. I still have 120 minutes to go. Help me.
someone out there help. Okay. Yeah, so I don't recommend anyone watches it.
No.
But if there are people out there who are huge Star Wars fans and they've
Still don't watch it.
they still don't watch it. It'll destroy too much. Okay, question for you, BJ. Which would you rather watch? Would you sit through Star Wars Holiday Special or Episode 9? Which would you rather, if you were forced to watch one of those films, which one would it be?
I mean, at this point, I'd rather watch Episode 9 because I haven't seen it yet. And I feel like if you watch the Star Wars Holiday Special 3 times, your brain just implodes. I don't want to risk it.
Yeah, well, I've actually seen it probably about 4 times.
That explains
Three
a
of
lot,
which,
then.
yeah, 3 of which have been recently, because I watched it 3 times trying to somehow understand something in it. But I coped with the experience because I spent the time organizing all of my Star Trek DVDs while watching it. You know, they gave me comfort through all of the Star Wars blundering. I was able to say, look, Star Trek, at least you held yourself together most of the time. And so I got these big cases of DVDs with Star Trek DVDs, and they're like the high density cases. So they have like stacks and stacks inside and like different rows. And I hate those because I don't want to have to dig through a stack and like bend the disc to snap each one out of it and then to look for one particular disc. So I was putting them all in individual cases, and that was a huge ordeal. But it's if you're going to have to watch it, it's good to stay busy because it's not going to keep your attention span. This show cannot achieve that.
So you played on easy mode. You let
Okay.
yourself get distracted while you were watching it.
Yeah, it's true. I
No.
didn't sit and do nothing and stare at the screen. I couldn't.
I forced myself to pay attention. That's why I wrote notes. By the way, I just looked it up. So, no wait, never mind. I'm doing math wrong in my head. Never mind. I was gonna say that. Oh, they run about the same length, but no. The episode 9 runs 142 minutes. Star Trek Holiday Special is only like 97 minutes, but it feels like a year.
It feels like a year. Yeah.
Feels like a year.
It feels long.
Every minute is an hour.
Every minute is an hour. There's everyone likes a cartoon in it. There's a cartoon, and a lot of people like the cartoon. But I have mixed feelings about the cartoon as well, so...
The cartoon is the least offensive part. It's not good, but I mean, it's alright, but when you put something that's alright into a cavalcade of terrible, it shines like a gem.
Okay. Alright. Should we get into spoilers then? Have you been able to get your demons out? And...
Oh no.
No, you're just at the beginning.
There are demons yet to be unleashed. Because
Okay.
because I was thinking about this, but yes, let's go on. Let's hit the spoiler section. Not that there's anything to spoil in this. I was trying to think of a way for us to talk about this and to just hit home how utterly awful this is. So I don't know if you want to do this or not, but I have in my notes broken down what happens in this holiday special. I know in the past we have said that we are not going to do a play-by-play of movies because it just makes the podcast last far too long, but I feel like we can't I feel like unless we mention each and everything that happens, we can't hit home just how brutal and mentally taxing this movie is.
Well, I think you're going to have to go through your list because otherwise these terrible things are going to be internalized and stay in. You've got to talk about them so that we can so that justice can somehow be served in some small, minute way. So go ahead.
Okay,
Give us your list.
Okay, so we'll go scene by scene, and if you have something you want to say about it, go ahead and say. So, and I will read what I wrote down as I went back through and broke down the scenes. So we have the opening. Han and Chewie are on the Millennium Falcon. They get shot at by Star Destroyers while trying to get Chewie home for Life Day.
Yeah. What's so bad about that scene?
What's so bad about that scene is that one of the first things Han says is something along the lines of, "That's it, I'm turning around." And I could have been spared at this point a cumulative 3 hours of pain after watching the scene twice if, yes, he had just turned around.
Yeah. Yep.
But yes, that part's not bad because you'll come to find that some of the best things in this movie are when they take stock footage of episode 4 and repurpose it for this.
And that's
I'm
the
pretty
best
sure
part.
Those are the least painful parts, yes. And then we get to what I call the first Wookiee family scene. So, Wookiee fam scene 1. Lumpy, who is Chewie's son, is really annoying and complains about having to do chores until someone turns on the TV for him.
What's unrealistic about that?
Nothing.
This is a futuristic world. So in 1978, they didn't understand this. But in 4 decades, all young people, even the furry Wookiees, even the Wookiee children would act that way.
While it is realistic, it doesn't mean I want to sit here and listen to roughly 5 minutes of unsubtitled sounds of Wookiees growling at each other. And that's it. That's the scene.
Okay, can I just say, you can read the script. There are several different scripts that were written for this
That would
movie.
require far more effort than this TV special
Deserves to have.
deserves.
Okay, but when I read the script, which I didn't read much of it, the Wookiee scene really isn't described very much. There's a few things that happen in it, and then it's over. And when you watch it, it's almost like they read the script and they decided, well, everything needs to be done. Let's do it all, and let's just slowly make each event happen. And,
Very, very slowly.
very slowly. I mean, the Chewie's wife is supposed to be working in the kitchen. They're supposed to pan over to the grandfather, and then he's working on a little toy for the kid. And then the kid comes through and is really annoying and loud as he's playing, and the grandfather says, "Be quiet," in, using Wookiee language. And then the kid goes off, and yeah, a few things happen. You could probably do all of that in like maybe a minute. I think that's one of the things with this movie is that there's a lot of people who just didn't understand how to make these scenes entertaining. And it's amazing how bad and how
Not
unwatchable.
entertaining, you don't say.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, it's an obvious statement, but I honestly think that this movie could have been good based on a few things. I mean, the fact that there's a holiday called Life Day, that's a fine story point. Chewie has a family. I think it's fine, especially if you establish characters, to suddenly go back and look at a character's backstory or family or origin. It's not a bad thing. It's done all the time. But you can do the right thing and the wrong way and end up with something like this, where the people who made it were just... I don't think people knew what Star Wars was. I mean, it had been out for like a year. By now, I'm pretty sure people knew it was popular. But a lot of people in Hollywood probably had no idea what makes Star Wars popular. And so they're like, hey, we can just make Star Wars. It's just a bunch of like creatures and aliens and stuff. We can do it. And apparently it's a lot harder to make a Star Wars movie than people think.
Well, you keep calling this a movie. Let's just establish it's a TV show. It's a holiday special.
It's all the same thing to me. But yeah, okay.
Whatever.
Holiday special, whatever. It's not like a big theatrical release. You're right.
No, yeah, it was made free for TV. On the version I watched, there was a very sad announcer at the beginning saying that the Incredible Hulk will not be shown.
Yeah.
One of the jokes in the comment section... One of the jokes in the comment section was something along the lines of, "The Incredible Hulk will not be shown," said the announcer in a sad and monotone voice, as he knew exactly what was about to happen. Anywho, so, what's the payoff for 5 minutes of Lumpy being annoying? We get we get what I called in my notes, for lack of a better term, skit one, which was basically a really bad circus act, like in the veins of Circo du Soleil or du
Circle,
Soleil, something along
yeah,
yeah,
Circle
something along
Soleil.
those lines, but just really bad. The only amusing thing about it was that the jugglers they had looked so bored. I don't know if it's just the costume and the makeup, but just the jugglers looked done with it. Like they knew what this was going to be a part of, and already got paid for it and had to do it, but they just decided to show
I
no
don't know.
joy about it.
I see. They were wearing masks. I didn't interpret any reaction from them. So I don't know. A lot of people probably didn't know what it was until it was all over. You get the sense that Harrison Ford knew, but I don't know. Hard to say. I do think that the thing is like, it's like people think that if you take one good thing, like an entertaining variety show, and then you take Star Wars, another good thing. If you take two good things and put two good things together, what you should come up with is another good thing. But that doesn't hold true, because things can be very incompatible and different, and they can be good for different reasons. So you can't just always mesh things together and it works out. So I think the problem with this show is that they tried to do a variety show in the first place. But on the other hand, a variety show is what these people did. They do Christmas variety show specials, and they do it like every year. And there were other popular things that they did variety shows for. So they're just checking a box. They're like, okay, Star Wars is the next big hit. Let's add it to what we're trying to do. But Star Wars, you can't. It's like it breaks the universe though. It breaks the universe if you're in a Star Wars movie and this is not canon, because suddenly we're doing all these other like entertainment things that anyway. You can keep going. I'm jumping around, but it's like
I'm just over here laughing because you're upset that it's like breaking the canon of Star Wars, and I'm over here like, I would have been okay with it if any of the entertainment would have been actually entertaining. I think that's the problem, is that everything just sucks.
Okay, so here's my point with this. So there's a lot of Star Wars entertainment, and some of it is just goofy, laughable, like a bunch of stormtroopers dancing on stage. So what's the difference between all that goofy stuff and like the serious movies where you have episodes 4, 5, and 6, where you have good story, good characters? The bad guys aren't laughable in the movie. They're only laughable when you do other things outside of the normal canon, where it's just like, a goofy commercial or other comedic sketches or something. I think the difference is the audience knows when something should belong in the canon and when something is obviously just for fun and it's okay. And when this movie, this holiday special, whatever you call it, when it starts out with a group of Wookiees in their home, people are like, this is supposed to be more on the canon side of things. It's supposed to be more like Star Wars. It doesn't have to be super serious. It doesn't have to be like the Star Wars movies, but it needs to be like real enough so that it feels like it's normal Star Wars. But then you inject it with like a band from the 70s that's obviously not in the Star Wars universe, and it just feels wrong. And the trader guy, he's wearing a pair of glasses. Does anyone wear glasses in the Star Wars universe? So I think they kind of wanted it just to be a goofy fun thing. But can you do like a goofy fun thing that's obviously just for fun if you have the real characters in their real costume delivering lines as if that this is just after they've destroyed the Death Star and this is like the next thing that they're doing? And I don't think the audience could accept it. But beyond that, even though it's wrong, you're right. It's just like it's not entertaining in the first place as well.
Honestly,
did I destroy the conversation enough?
Honestly, I didn't really expect to go this in depth on. No,
Okay. What were you expecting?
I was just expecting groans of pain and that sort of thing. But anyway, I just wanted to verify something. So yeah, it should be noted. I don't know if we said, but the holiday special was released in 20, good grief, 1979. So it was a year after Star Wars, or I guess Episode 4. And before Empire Strikes Back came out. So you're over here talking about it doesn't fit with the Star Wars universe. And I'm like, you have to remember, at the time, there wasn't really a Star Wars universe.
Yeah, but that is true. But I still think that the universe was kind of being built and put together between these movies. And this doesn't even come close to fitting in, especially since I think George Lucas had ideas for this show. He wanted the Wookiee family, and he even gave them good names, and they took the names out and shortened them. And then they went on. He had a storyline that had other things, and the original script is like gone. Nobody knows what it is, but there's rumors and there's things that I read. I don't know if they're true, but there was other plot points that were supposed to happen, and there were scenes that were supposed to build the storyline of this so that it was understandable. It was about Han and Chewbacca trying to get back in time for Life Day, but there was a whole thing that they were going through to get there, and they cut a lot of that out just so that they could have all these other filler scenes. And they were supposed to have scenes where like the mom and the grandpa would have scenes where they would show how much they miss Chewbacca. And there was even a scene where they put the helmet on the grandfather, and it's supposed to, there's like a lady that sings to him and talks to him, and it's very not something that we're
not going to talk about that yet. That is getting restricted to that.
You have, okay, fine, I'll slow down. Although my point is that I think that if people had just gone with what George Lucas originally put together, and I'm not saying this for a fact, but I have a feeling that if there weren't so many rewrites, and it might have been better. It might have been much better. But keep in mind, this was like $1 million to make this. This was a high-budget TV special. But can you really make a Star Wars quality something with $1 million? I mean, can you really do that? These are not cheap movies. They have expensive costumes and sets and special effects. And even though the original Star Wars was low budget, it had, $10 million. It wasn't like a $1 million thing.
Wow.
So,
if the argument is that you need a budget to make a good Star Wars movie, it may present episodes 7, 8, and 9.
Well, yes. With the budget, you can't necessarily make a good Star Wars movie. You need more than that. You're right.
I suppose, to be fair, I shouldn't add 9 on that list because I haven't seen it. I don't think you've seen it, right? No.
No, I don't think I can. Honestly, I think I could watch the Star Wars Holiday Special I would probably watch that over Episode 9.
Excellent. I will note that down for future reference.
Because Episode 9 is different. It's a different kind of cringe.
You haven't even watched it. You can't.
I know, but I'm worried about how I might feel after I watch it and during. Because the problem is that there was just so much opportunity to make something that would work and that would be good. Like, the opportunity was there. It's like you lose a football game, okay, that's bad. You lose the Super Bowl when you were there and you weren't playing that hard of a team and you could have won, but somehow you messed it up. Somehow you messed it up. That's what Episode 9 is to me.
I'm gonna cut you off there because I want these raw emotions for when I pick my moment and inflict Episode 9 on you, and plus we still have a long way to go. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
Wookiee family scene 2. Annoying Wookiee child has to do the dishes. Wookiee wife gets sad that Chewie's not home. Decides to call Luke. Luke is fixing an actively smoking engine, but decides to take time out to say, nah, they left already. The Wookiee wife then makes a call to the local trading post. Here is your obligatory Luke Skywalker scene. Luke Skywalker cameo?
Yeah. Cameo.
Okay. You don't say how much to say.
He actually, Mark Hamill didn't do that bad of a job. I mean, his makeup's all wrong, and I know Mark Hamill had an accident. I don't know if this was like before or after that. It was before that? Yeah, so they really just messed up the makeup. But and also about that, a lot of people have said that Mark Hamill had an accident, like I just said. But a lot of people say that his face got scratched up. But the reality is, I've never noticed any scarring or anything on his face in any of his other movies. So I don't really know what people are talking about. He looks just the same to me either way. But I don't know. I thought that maybe the makeup was because of that, but apparently I don't know. Who knows? But I think he did good.
So
Go ahead.
Actually, I just Googled it. Looked like he actually had it in January 1977. So yeah, it was like before Star Wars came out.
So it was like right after they finished the movie.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mark Hamill scene, which leads us to skit number 2. The trader tries to sell something to an Imperial officer while the Wookiee wife, what's her name, Mala, something like that. Watch it.
Her name is Mala. In the script, it was Mala Tubuk. Chewbacca, Mala Tubuk. I guess they're kind of similar. I don't know.
Anyway, she watches this go down while trying to call a guy in the video phone, which seems like just like a insane invasion of privacy. Anyway, the trader sneakily tells her that Chewie is on his way and will arrive soon. How does he know? The plot told him, I guess.
Yeah, the magic of the script told him.
And then,
do you like the trader? Is there anything about this trader that you think is a good character?
We'll get to that. I actually wrote notes on that for how he almost saved the scene until his actions utterly destroyed it. But anyway, we get to what I call stock footage scene 1. Stock footage from Star Wars, which is overdub of Darth Vader ordering martial law on the planet to search every house to find rebels. The scene is good in that it is stock footage from Star Wars and is just overdubbed by James Earl Jones. That's it. That's the scene. This leads to skit number 3. Mala tries to follow a cooking show. That's it. That's the gag.
Yeah, I think the gag was supposed to be that the cook has multiple arms, and you don't realize it until suddenly the cook gives you too many instructions than you can reasonably handle. And so to the cook, that's easy because the cook has an extra arm. And that's the gag. Like, Mala doesn't have 3 arms, so she has to struggle with it. Okay, it is really hard to understand, so I'm kind of guessing, but I think that's what they were trying to make funny.
You assumed that was the gag.
I assume. I mean, what else could I assume?
It hurts my brain that someone looked at all these as like, yeah, that's good, clip it and ship it.
So the guy who played that cook, he's on the Carol Burnett show, and he's funny on that show. He is.
I'm sure most of the guest stars who are on the show were funny in their native environment, but not in this. Holy moly. Okay. Then we hit what I labeled stock footage scene 2. Footage from the TIE Fighter battle in Star Wars with a handful of new scenes added in where Han and Chewie talk about how they're in trouble trying to get home for Life Day. Still, one of the least offensive things about the show is the stock footage.
Yeah, and they're not really like going through anything to get back. Because usually in a Star Wars story, the characters have to have scene upon scene where something happens and they somehow have to get out of it. But this, it's like, okay, we're being shot at, we're maneuvering. Okay, we're being shot at, we're maneuvering. It's just kind of there. It's like, oh yeah, there's a lightsaber battle. Let's swing our lightsabers back and forth. Okay, we just did the scene. That's all that there is to it.
Okay, and then...
But I guess that at $1 million budget, they just are like, whatever. That's what they do in space. They run away from the Empire, so we got that handled. Standard running from the Empire scene.
Okay, and then we arrive at that. Wookiee family scene 3. Planet is placed under martial law. Trader arrives to hand out Life Day gifts. Lumpy gets a transmitter. Mala gets a music box. Itchy gets... ... Gets... something?
I think what that something was supposed to be was, this is going back to rumors of the original script. It was supposed to be some sort of device that like transmits your inner thoughts and ideas into some sort of image so that you can understand it. And he was supposed to see some sort of image through it that made him realize how much he missed Chewbacca and that Chewbacca is missing and in trouble. Kind of like how Luke has a vision about Han and Leia in Empire Strikes Back, how there's, they're in trouble. Oh no, there's something wrong. It was supposed to be something like
Are
that.
you sure it's an actual thing you read, not just someone trying to salvage the horrible pieces of this into something watchable?
I don't know.
Because
that's
if
the
that
thing,
was
like,
the original plan, how did this happen? So
I don't know.
Hang on,
Okay, so the history is there are... Okay, go ahead.
Just to give context to those lucky people who have not watched Holiday Special. So basically what happens is that we insert Skit 4. Itchy plugs into some kind of VR headset and gets a quote-unquote fantasy-fulfilling program. No, seriously. Music ensues, cringe is induced at epic levels. When we watched this in a group, it was so awkward.
I know, we all sat around watching it. And is this supposed to be a family show? Because you'll have to not only cover your eyes, but cover your ears. Anyway. It's not even... Like, obviously shows have, like, romantic things like this, but it's an old man viewing it, and he's not even human. He's, like, a Wookiee,
it's like,
too.
I feel like
Like, what makes sense about this?
I feel like in some weird way, keeping it vague is probably make it sound worse than it is, but I also don't want to talk about it.
Well, let's just pretend like it didn't happen and move on. Okay. It's too much. It's too much. We can't handle it.
Okay, well, okay, just to give my full feelings, I will quote what I wrote about, quote my notes about the scene. I wrote in capital letters across the entire line, "Why?"
Why?
And then...
It wasn't so much, she was a good singer. It's not like she's not talented.
My next line is, "I thought I wanted to die 20 minutes ago. Now I seek only oblivion."
Only oblivion.
Okay, so like I said, we're probably making it worse sound worse than it is, but it's just so out of place and so out of left field, and how they phrase it is just, I would say you have to see it for yourself, but I don't want anyone to have to see this.
Yeah, well, this is my wild theory that's based on very little. And that is that they had this visionary sequence, and they thought, well, we need to get this girl who's going to do a solo. Can we merge the two scenes together somehow? That's what I think might have happened. And yeah, there's a problem when people force a scene to be something when they know it shouldn't be, or at least it doesn't fit right. Yet they're like, well, we have to make this work. We've got two requirements. Let's just throw them together and see what it is. That's not the way you're supposed to make entertainment. You're supposed to make it designed correctly for the audience and for the tone and for the storyline that it's inside of. It's not just supposed to be slapped together just because the producer says one thing and you have to have this person in here and the original script says another thing and you don't want to do a full rewrite. I don't know. Something happened. We may never really know what happened.
Speaking of things being shoehorned in, let's move on to our next scene. Wookiee family scene 4. Leia and 3PO call. Mala wanting to talk to Chewie or Han. Oh, they haven't arrived yet? Just have them call us when they get there. Chewie and Han and Chewie arrive in system and successfully land on the planet. Wookiee family gets excited when the ship flies over, but whoops, it's the Imperials. They're here to search the house for sign of rebels. Random Imperial officer investigates the video music box, which leads to Skit 5. Jefferson Starship features in a very purple music video. The music video is very, very purple.
Very purple. Underline that. Very purple. It's the most purplest part of the entire holiday special. And do you like Jefferson Starship? Are you like into that band at all?
Don't dislike them, but I couldn't, like, if someone walked to me and said, "Hey, what's your favorite Jefferson Starship song?" I'd be like, "I don't know."
Yeah, so I don't know a lot about them, but they do have a few good songs. This is not one of their good songs. This is just kind of like a song.
Star Wars Holiday Special. Nothing is allowed to be good.
They must have thought, we cannot use one of our good songs on this.
So
I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah. The other thing, which I mentioned earlier, obviously this show breaks all the rules, so of course. But in an ideal situation, you wouldn't break the Star Wars universe using a band from the 70s. And if you did take a band like Jefferson Starship and put them in Star Wars, put them in costume, put a mask over their face, make them like the Cantina Band or something. Make them incorporated into it, not just like there as themselves. So that way, when people are looking at it years later, they're like, wow, look, they used the actual band and they looked like they were really part of Star Wars and it was fun. But they don't do that because they don't think in those terms. I don't think anyone at this point really thinks that Star Wars was going to keep on growing and becoming a bigger thing. They might have just thought, this is a big hit. It's the latest thing. We're just going to use it for our special, and what it is doesn't matter. But now looking at it years later, it completely looks bad by making it into this, whatever it is. I'm just going in circles now.
Yeah, I'm just laughing now because
I just have to keep saying negative things until somehow I feel better about it.
I'm just laughing now because I'm reading the notes I wrote down while I was watching it, and I have stuff like, yes, now the plan's under martial law. Let's just randomly accept calls from known rebel leaders. Surely that can't go wrong. Imperial officers are easily distracted by purple lights. 45 minutes in, heaven help me, we're only about halfway done. And the ones that made me laugh were, do you think the guest stars knew what they were guest starring in? Actually, no. The one that really made me laugh, and we're going back to the scene that's not to be talked about, is, do you think they told this singer that her motivation was, you're the fantasy of a horny old Wookiee?
No. I mean, if they told her the truth,
do you think they walked in there was like, here's your scene, here's what's happening, let's set the stage for you. And then I have wrote down, because one of the last signs, the Jefferson Starship song, is something about vanishing without a trace, and I wrote down, I wish this special had vanished without a trace.
Well, tragedies, there's something to learn from tragedies like this movie. I know I'm not supposed to say movie. This holiday special.
Go ahead and call it whatever you want, man. I don't care. Anyway.
Apparently, yeah, George Lucas says that he was getting updates about it, but he wasn't like there on set, and he obviously didn't see the rewrites that they were doing, because they started with his original thing, which wasn't really a script. It was like a bunch of notes, and then they were putting a script together, and then they were like, no, let's make it different, and they kept changing it and changing it. And you can find that script like on the fourth rewrite is where you might be able to find a copy of it, but then there's other rewrites even after that. So what it was supposed to be originally is somewhat vague, but I think that it started off as a good idea, and that's why so many people got on board with it. But then they started changing it to suit some other perspective, some other drive that they had, some other goal of making it into something else.
I mean, at this point, they had to be in like the pre-production stages of Empire Strikes Back, right? You would think.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it was during production of Empire Strikes Back that this came out. Of course, the production of Empire Strikes Back was a long period. They worked on it for a very long time. So yeah, it's not like Lucas had the time to like ride shotgun on this thing. Yeah, and another thing to note for historical perspective is that there were other things that they were doing that were kind of like this in order to promote Star Wars, because they had all this merchandise they wanted to sell. So they were planning to have Star Wars on TV frequently on different shows, just so people could be reminded of it, and they'll make sure to go down and buy all the toys and other stuff that they needed to buy. And so this holiday special was a part of that. But I think the difference, and I haven't viewed all the stuff, but it seems like this holiday special was a big thing. It was a big endeavor. The other ones were smaller. And in terms of tone, they probably were able to hit the tone correctly. Where, yeah, this is Star Wars, but it's really just a fun little thing about Star Wars. It's not like real canon Star Wars. And I think the audience could pick up on that. But this one, you don't know what to make of it. What does it all mean? And And yeah, so the brain interprets it as just bad, on top of not also being entertaining at all.
Anywho, Wookiee Scene 5. The Imperials stop screwing around with the videos and continue their search. The trader is forced to leave. To keep Lumpy quiet, Mala has him watch a video. The dumb kid chooses to watch rebel propaganda while the Imperials search the home.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not actually rebel propaganda, but it's like, oh, the Imperials searched my house. Let's watch this cartoon about the adventures of my dad and his friends, who happen to be rebel heroes.
Yes. And another example of how does that work within... Like, we're not actually in the Star Wars universe, especially for watching a cartoon about it.
So, and this leads to the one thing that most people like about the holiday special is the cartoon, which stars Boba Fett. So,
yeah,
I might have mentioned this to you before, but allow me to hit you with one of my primary Star Wars hot takes.
All right.
Why is Boba Fett so popular? Like, what does he actually do in the movies? He follows Han and Chewie around for a little bit. He waits for Darth Vader to capture them. Darth Vader's like, okay, here, take him to Jabba. He gives him to Jabba. He bodyguards Jabba for a little bit. And then he accidentally gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit by a blind Han Solo. And then everyone's like, yeah, Boba Fett's the best character. And I'm over here like, what? He doesn't do anything. It's like, he looks cool. That's about it.
He does look cool.
But
he's got cool gadgets and stuff.
Like, somehow this is like spawned like the Mandalorian and like lots of things in the expanded universe back when the expanded universe was a thing before Disney took it over. But why?
Well, if you're going to make a spin-off, you have to find something that you can make a lot of content on. It's, it's like playing Scrabble. You need to find a word with a vowel that you could use in order to start having a whole nother line go off of it. And with The Mandalorian, that was an opportunity to invent something for the audience to look at, because we've done Jedis, but the storyline in Star Wars is very limited when it comes to Jedis. There's not very many Siths. There's not very many Jedis. In most of the storyline, there's not very many of them. So there's really not a lot of opportunity to work with heroes and villains very well. So The Mandalorian is a great opportunity to invent some other thing like the Force, where there's a system and a belief system and values and good and bad of some kind.
And
so your characters aren't just plain people.
This is not me dunking on The Mandalorian, because I only watched season 1, but I enjoyed it. But like, even before The Mandalorian was a thing, how was Boba Fett so popular that like I it's like I don't know. It's like, I know theoretically speaking, George Lucas had the prequels written out beforehand, but what made Boba Fett so cool? That's like, yeah, the clone army is based on Boba Fett's father, and Boba Fett's a clone that this big bad bounty hunter got the raise for a little bit before Samuel Jackson cut his head off or whatever. It's like, he doesn't do anything. He stands there, looks intimidating, gets Han handed to him on a silver platter by Darth Vader, and then he gets comedically killed.
Yeah, he gets killed in a very comedic way. It's not like they give him an epic death. It's a funny thing that happens. This really mean, strong, this very treacherous guy that's super dangerous, and Han accidentally hits his jetpack and then he falls into the pit. It's anticlimactic and in a funny way, and it's good. I think that people like villains over time. They hate villains the moment they're introduced, but as time goes on, they start to like villains later on. It's this weird phenomenon in entertainment. It's like pirates were scary if you read Treasure Island. They're not like good people, the pirates. And then 100 years later, there's more pirate stuff coming out. And now the pirates are the good guys. And like cowboys, the original biography about Wyatt Earp, the cowboy gang were bad guys. And then Hollywood made all these movies about cowboys, which doesn't just refer to the gang. It also refers to like people who moved cattle across the land. But then it changes over time. And so you want like the gunslinger cowboys that were ready to duel in the streets. You want some heroes out of that. I don't know. With Darth Vader, isn't it that Darth Vader sold more stuff more franchise, more
Well,
like toys and
Darth Vader gets things.
products.
Darth Vader gets things done in the movie.
Yeah, he's definitely he
Like,
does get things done, but then the good guys always slip away in the end too. So does he always get everything he wants? If anything, he fails every time. Like his entire career as a Sith Lord working for the Emperor is met with a whole lot of failure, and then he punishes his subordinates for the failures. But yeah, he definitely gets more done than anyone else. That's for sure.
okay, so where are we?
So I'll answer your question because obviously I'm better at rambling than answering questions. The reason why Boba Fett is popular is because you're either going to love Darth Vader, which is cool, but what other choices do you have if you're going to love a villain? Boba Fett is number 2 in line. It's not like you can go, oh yeah, Moff Searden, he's awesome. What's his name? That's the guy from the episode 4,
Tarkin?
right? Is it Moff? I forget his name.
The guy.
I'm so detached.
The guy that Peter, what's his name? Peter Cushing plays.
Anyway, you can't make him into a big hero. He's too much like a school principal gone wrong. He's not cool.
Yeah, Tarkin.
So yeah. So Darth Vader's cool, and if Darth Vader's not enough, then Boba Fett is there. And Boba Fett is different than Darth Vader. It's not like he goes around in his big ships. Boba Fett's got to be innovative because he's just on his own with his. He's like a Han Solo, but a bad guy. But you don't show that, no. But the idea of that is still there, even though nobody sees it. In the back of people's mind, they're envisioning that's what's happening. One of the cool things about Star Wars is that they only show you small little bits of storyline, but somehow I think the audience is able to envision so much stuff that must be going on behind the scenes in between these movies and, in other planets. This feels like a big universe, even though you're only really seeing a small little bit of it. And with Boba Fett, yeah, he's got to have so many stories of going places and doing things. He's got to be well traveled. People like Boba Fett because I don't know. There's got to be something more. And with the Mandalorian, I won't spoil it, but they do have things related to Mandalorians and a lot of stuff in that. So for those who love Boba Fett, there's the Mandalorian for them.
I don't know. Maybe we can do something with Mandalorian later. I don't know. I've only watched season 1.
Yeah.
Anywho. Where am I on my dumb list? Okay. Wookiee family scene 6. While the Imperials have done a less than... So, here's what cracked me up, is that at this point, the Imperials go upstairs to investigate the kids' room. Like, downstairs where, like, all the actual incriminating evidence is, like the communicator that links directly to a bunch of rebel leaders, they just kind of poke around a little bit, they kind of move things on the shelf. When they go up to the kids' room, they're like literally tearing things apart. They like rip the stuffed animal's head off to look for things in the stuffed animal.
Yeah.
So after they do this, Lumpy goes up to clean up his room. Instead of cleaning up his room, he puts his new transmitter together, which leads us to Skit 7. Dean.
I actually like the scene before that.
Okay, go ahead.
The one thing that made me laugh in this movie, never mind. I'll just tell it.
So, you mirth.
If the Imperial officer turns to Lumpy and he's like, "Go clean your room," and Lumpy's like, "Huh," and he just like stomps up the stairs. Yeah. And I'm like, this is exactly how you establish the Empire as the evil guys. You make them force children to clean their rooms. That is exactly how you do it. And so I just thought it was funny how angry he was that the Empire was telling him to clean his room.
Jeff, have you been the bad guy the whole time?
Yeah. I was like, I now relate to the Empire. I totally see it from their point of view. They just want order in the galaxy. That's all they want, is less chaos and more order. Go clean your room.
It turns out the Empire were the good guys the whole time.
Yeah, and all these rebels wanted to have all their stuff all over the floor.
Anyway, skit number 7. The instruction manual for the transmitter, brought to you by a clumsy, I don't know what it was supposed to be. Was it supposed to be a robot, an android, some kind of alien? But anyway,
I don't think anyone understood what it was supposed to be.
Anyway, the thing putting together the instruction manual was incompetent, and there was some super basic video editing where they scrub the image back and forth so he makes some really jerky movements like, my hand's moving back and forth, waka waka.
I think that somebody thought, hey, Star Wars has special effects. We should have special effects in our holiday special. So they thought, we'll just put in something that people haven't done before, which is strange editing where people look like they have a twitch of some kind. But they really should have like tested this out in like a film test and maybe shown it to an audience to see how they would have reacted, because there's really nothing you can really absorb from it beyond just awkward disbelief as to what exactly it's supposed to be.
Speaking of awkward disbelief, we segue from Skit 7 directly into Skit 8, an Imperial propaganda podcast which all Imperial officers are ordered to watch appears on the TV screen, showing a bar in Tatooine. No, really. An overlong skit ensues where a put-upon barkeep rejects someone making advances towards her, has to shut down the bar because of Imperial lockdown. She tries to kick out her patrons, but when that doesn't work, she kicks them out with the power of music and conga lines, and ends up alone with the... She gets...
You're making this scene sound a lot more entertaining than it was. Can I just say, because your description is much better than the real thing.
The scene ends with her alone in the bar with the ejected admirer. Is this supposed to be cute or ominous? I don't know. This goes on for 10 minutes!
Well, yeah. I don't know. It was kind of fun for a split second when you see the band, because they have the Cantina band. And I'm like, hey, it's the Cantina band. And that's their original costumes. The lighting isn't as good as the actual Star Wars films, of course, because this is cheap camera work and all that. And I don't know, they could have had the scene with the actual bartender from the movie, that grumpy guy. They could have had him do it, and he could have sang a song when no one wanted to leave. Right?
I mean, to be entirely fair, I don't drink, you don't drink, so we can't really comment on bar culture, but I assume that you don't get a rowdy crowd to leave by singing them a cheesy song. I could be wrong. Maybe that happens in bars every day.
Yeah, maybe it like works every time. And they think, we cannot get people out of here. Okay, start the music. And then a few minutes later, they're all gone.
It works every time. Who knew?
Yeah, every time. They don't even need a bouncer. They just need somebody to get a microphone and start singing as they walk through between the tables.
The barkeep actively waves the bouncer off and instead chooses to chase him off with song.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
The barkeep, though, is from the Golden Girls.
B. Arthur.
Yeah, and the Golden Girls are funny. Yes, I'm a middle-aged man who thinks the Golden Girls are funny. But, yeah.
This scene, however, was not. I assume you didn't like it either, since you said that my description was better than the actual scene.
Yeah,
Okay, now we hit the climax of the holiday special. Lumpy. Wookiee Family Scene 7. Lumpy uses his transmitter to trick the Imperials into leaving with a false return to base message. The Imperials leave a stormtrooper behind to wait for potential rebels. One stormtrooper. The stormtrooper finds Lumpy with the transmitter, chases him outside, and then gets knocked off the railing by returning Han and Chewie. A heartwarming reunion with Chewie and his fam. Han leaves. The traitor shows back up. The Imperials send a broadcast looking for the missing, i.e. dead, stormtrooper, to which the traitor responds by sending a message saying that the stormtrooper had stolen stuff from the Wookiees and then deserted, to which the Imperial officer is like, oh, okay. The traitor leaves.
Yeah, we know that guy. This is very typical of him.
So, at this point...
he's always grabbing food and then wandering away. Yeah, don't worry about it.
So, at this point,
and that stormtrooper, this is the stormtrooper that fell off the balcony, right?
Yeah.
Because That death scene does not make any sense. Even within this movie, it's a stretch. I don't know because it's like he jumps, he gets startled by Han, and then he jumps and then goes straight off. Like, I think he was supposed to jump on Han and Han moved, but I don't think Han really moves much. So he's like, oh no, I'm being attacked. Quick, jump.
The action scenes as they are not very good, because there's like a scene where Han knocks the gun out of the stormtrooper's hand, and it doesn't show the blaster falling to the floor. It shows him knocking it out of its hand, and then they like cut to it just laying there on the floor, not like it's sliding or bouncing. It's just he knocks it down, and then there's like a second. Then there's like a second of the gun just on the floor, like it's just there. And then they scuffle or something, but anyway,
there wasn't really a scuffle from my point of view. It was like the stormtrooper like leaped and then just fell off. Like he slaps his gun and then he just kind of like tumbles off, and that's the end. This whole entire show. That's the most action that you really get. You get a little bit of a regurgitated space battle from the original from episode 4, but beyond that,
yes.
That's all the action in this whole
outside
thing.
The cartoon, this year's most action-packed part. And then things get weird.
Yeah, at this point they get weird.
The trader leaves. The Wookiees get out glowing glass balls and hold them up until a pillar of light appears and teleports them into space?
It teleports them into Life Day. Whatever that is. You're wondering the whole time what Life Day is. Apparently this is what it is. It's twinkling, teleporting, strange interdimensional travel where all of your friends suddenly show up in the same space somehow.
We're not there yet.
Okay, go ahead.
Gas balls, and then they are magically transported into space, or at least a starfield, and they're all wearing red robes, and somehow Itchy looks even creepier with the red robe on. And then them and a bunch of other Wookiees who have theoretically all held up glowing glass balls at the same time walk into a star. Which teleports...
You know, I would have preferred that they just sit down at a table and eat the food that Mala has been working on for so long, and they just sit down and be like, we're together, finally. We could eat a meal without the Empire causing problems for us, and that would be it. That would have been fine.
Wait, there's more. After they walk in the star, all the Wookiees are teleported to some temple tree thing. I swear the people like donning robes and walking into a portal or something that teleports them to some eldritch temple. I swear I've read this in the Lovecraft story somewhere. But like you said before, at this weird temple tree thing, everyone's here. R2-D2, 3PO, Luke, Han who literally just left. Leia and Luke, who were far, far away. They all magically appear. If it was this easy, why didn't Chewie just teleport there?
They didn't have the J.J. Abrams interspace teleport plot destroying device that
this is where
obviously he invented for these kinds of scenes to happen, so that everyone could just finally be in the scene and then we can get the movie over with.
This is where J.J. Abrams comes from. It's like,
I know. He's like, what a great idea.
Holiday special had it right. We'll just random magic teleport.
Let's just make everyone jump from planet to planet. There's no need to travel and have an adventure. Let's just make them all poop. They're there.
The whole overarching plot is that, Chewie has to get home in time for Life Day. Then, whoops, Life Day happens and Aaron teleports there anyway.
Apparently it was a virtual meeting for Life Day.
So they all magically appear. Leia gives a speech about togetherness and fighting evil and against the dark or something, and then
it's not like a bad speech.
No.
It's like one line that was fine. It was okay.
And then she sings a song that has terrible mixing, so it's hard to hear over the orchestration.
Really?
At least in the
Okay.
version I watched, it seemed like the orchestra was overpowering her.
Oh, okay.
So, so,
Well, it's hard to get like a good recording now. So who knows what it originally sounded like on when they played it over the air.
so this here is basically their one kind of Christmassy scene in their holiday special. It's like, oh, we're together as a family, and togetherness is good, and we're together, yay!
Yeah.
You, they're marching to a star.
How and then we
They're
march into a
marching
star
to a
together.
star.
We do this every
happens
Life Day.
Does Life Day happen like every year? Is it like Christmas?
You don't know. The Star Wars universe, you just don't know.
Is there
Yeah.
like a... Never mind. That's a rabbit hole I'm not going to go down here. Anyway, stock footage scene 3. A freeze frame on Chewie's face, and then just randomly show clips from episode 4. That's it.
Yeah. And that sequence I'm okay with. Because, random sequences from episode 4 with good music. It's not bad. It's nice little thing. That kind of stuff will sell merchandise. Yeah, it's okay.
It's almost as if the whole thing would have been better if they just would have shown episode 4 on TV instead of this.
I know.
And then the closing scene. Chewie and his family are back home after returning from the space tree and have dinner, I guess. The end. Roll a sanity check. If you fail, take 3 sanity damage.
Take 4 sanity damage.
Why?
Why?
Oh no.
What condition is your soul in at this point, BJ?
It's better than it was yesterday because I have watched good things since then. But
Yeah. What things have you watched that have helped you to recover?
just a bunch of random stuff. But
Almost like a variety show, a bunch of random stuff.
Shush you. But just out of curiosity, did you get that Steam message I sent you last night?
Probably. Well, I'll give you the standard answer. I receive every message that I get. Do I read them? Do I even know they're there?
Okay.
Do I bother to check often enough?
Okay, allow me to read for you and for the audience at home what I wrote you. I don't know when you're going to get this, but I am currently 35 minutes into the holiday special, and I hate you for making me watch this again with the intensity of 1,000 desert suns.
Yes, but you could get your little orb and walk into that sun. That's the point that you need to understand.
Yeah, but if I don't live to be 1,000 years old, I don't get to have 1,000 of it to equal the intensity of my hatred. Okay. Anything else you want to say about this? So actually, I do want to ask you one thing.
Go ahead.
Did you watch this alone, or did you make your family watch it with you?
I watched it while trying to multitask, and people came in and out and sat next to me and asked 1,000 questions for which I had 0 answers.
Oh yes, I forgot you played this on easy mode.
Yeah, I did. I played it on easy mode. Yeah. I don't know. Little kids are so incredibly addicted to screens that even if you put the holiday special on of all things and they walk in and sit down and look at it, they'll just stay and veg. It's the condition that they're in. Like, this is just the thing on the glowing magic brain controlling device. I guess I will sit and I will listen to this song.
I was thinking about this. I'm like, if I had kids, I don't know if I would let them watch this because there'd be that 1 million chance that they would like it. And when little kids like something, they want to watch it over and over and over again. That
would be an interesting experiment. It wouldn't be a good experiment for children, but it'd be unethical. But seeing if children had the attention span to actually watch it and repeat it.
I'm pretty sure the Star Wars Holiday Special is against the Geneva Convention.
I think a lot of kids like the idea of having a Wookiee that's a little boy, and he has a bedroom with gadgets in there. And that's the problem, is that it'll draw kids in just with that.
I mean, there's plenty of other quality Star Wars adjacent material for kids, like the Great Ewok Adventure.
Yes, and that is one we might someday review because, that's a different thing.
Is there going to be like a bad Star Wars Cold War between us? Like I'm gonna
Or I fire my worst,
like
and then you have to retaliate
like
because of course you do.
like I'm gonna hold the thread of episode 9 over you, and in retaliation, you're gonna hold the thread of the Ewok adventure. Mutually assured destruction.
Exactly. Oh, speaking of
He
Star
won't
Wars
do
and
it.
kids,
He's not gonna. He won't do
there's
it.
no way he's gone that mad.
He's not gonna risk episode 9.
It's about to get all crazy in here. Anyway, I do have another rant here, real quick rant, okay? But speaking of Star Wars and the next generation, I really think there's some problems here.
Wait,
namely,
like Star Trek Next Generation, or like Next Generation as in younger people?
Okay, not to confuse with the next generation, because I know I constantly talk about it, and I know where you would come to that point, especially since you've been conditioned to always know that I'm about to talk about it.
Not
yeah,
that next generation.
Not that thing, but the generation for which is now still being drawn into Star Wars, because of course, but they're learning about Star Wars through other things, like the cartoon and Lego video games and all these other things, and they're getting to know the newer movies really well, but they're not watching the original ones as much, and it's almost like their experience with Star Wars is completely backwards from our generation, where we went through 3 awesome movies and then everything stopped and we had to live without Star Wars for years and years. Not like any real Star Wars. I mean, we did have this wonderful holiday special, but considering we didn't have any real Star Wars until
at the time, unless you
mid-late 90s.
Unless you had known someone who had recorded the holiday special, you had no access to it.
Yeah, it wasn't until the internet started changing the world that the holiday special has become so easily accessible. A lot of people have watched it, I would think, but
I will admit I watched a version of it on YouTube because there's literally no legal way to tame this. And the fact that I mean, Disney is not known as a company that does not strenuously protect its copyrights. There is a 6-year-old copy of the Star Wars Holiday Special with over 5 million views that still exists. This is how little Disney cares about the holiday special.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's only so much you can do to repress something, keep people from watching it, because they're going to get curious and want to watch it anyway.
Anyway, you were trying to make a point and I distracted you.
Yeah, people are watching Star Wars differently, and the problem is I ran into somebody who was like early 20s. So they said, everyone's been talking about Star Wars. I finally watched the original trilogy, and I don't see what the big deal is what he said. And I think that the problem is the original trilogy, you can't quite get it in its pure form. A lot of things have been added to it. So it's not quite what it was. And then on top of that, people see other things and they get to know the storyline really well through other mediums, through other like games and cartoons. And they don't really get into the heart of the real story because they don't watch the original one, which still holds up well through time. So I think that they're learning about Star Wars backwards. And it's not like it's a big deal. It's just entertainment, of course. But I like to rant about it because I don't think that, I don't know whether it's going to impact the next generation like it did the previous one. Because, I mean, there's a lot of heart in Star Wars. It's not just action. It's all about Luke not just overcoming the external evil that he's faced with, which is the part that's the popular action that's going on. It's also, he's got to overcome the evil that is inside of him, the same evil that overtook his father. And he's got to deal with all that. And so it's both simple with simple action and simple adventure, but it's complex with other things too, all wrapped together at the same time. I don't think the newer generation's really going to experience Star Wars like that, like we did much. It's going to be different for them. And that's my thing, is that I don't think they're getting the full experience like we do. But maybe you have a different opinion. I don't know.
I don't think that deep about it. I don't like the 2 movies I've seen in the sequel trilogy. They weren't good.
Yeah, they weren't good. I don't think they understand the Force very well. And the problem is I'm not sure if anyone really I mean, these are just movies. There is no law that says you have to make the Force a certain way when you make a Star Wars movie. There isn't anything like that. It's just whatever seems to make sense and the audience loves. But I think there was a formula that worked in the late 70s, early 80s. And I don't think anyone really understands what that formula is, because when they made new Star Wars movies, both in the prequels and in the Disney films that have come out recently, all of those I think are a little bit off in how they interpret the Force. Because Obi-Wan in episode 4, the way he acted is different than the way other Jedis act later on. So I think that whatever the magic was, it was kind of an accident, and no one's been able to really replicate it very well, because they're not sure exactly how do you make somebody with such great power in a storyline. Anyway,
Oh,
does that make sense at all?
yeah, kind of. Like
kind of, yeah.
Like I don't know if this is the time to get into this discussion, since it's.
Especially since everyone listening to this is probably exhausted by now.
No, I am, but yeah, no, we can.
Including us.
In the future, we will start something Star Wars related will be watched, whether good or ill, and I look forward to that because then we will see the fully armed and operational power of Jeff's Star Wars rant when it happens.
I have many rants, many of them.
Anyway, so
on many subjects.
So any final rants on this one?
Oh, I think I can't rant anymore. If I did, I would go in circles too much. So I must decline. The last thing I would say is, yeah, you don't need to watch it. Nope. Doesn't need to be seen.
Doesn't need to be seen twice.
Nope. I think that they should make film students watch it just as like it's just a warning. It's like watching safety videos where horrible things happen. You just kind of have a warning. By the way, this can happen in entertainment. People can make things like this. Beware.
You can learn something from anything, even if it's how not to do something.
Yeah. Well said, BJ. Well said.
This is an example of how not to do something.
Yep. All right. We did it. It's over. We talked about this movie, this holiday special of whatever it is. It's done. We can move on with our lives now.
I will end with one final note. It took the Star Wars I have this written in my notes. 1 hour, 10 minutes. I honestly have a headache.
That was the last thing in your notes?
No, it wasn't the last thing, but it took 70 minutes, but this caused me actual pain.
Mm-hmm. So you're never going to watch it for the rest of your days,
nope.
Right? This is it.
This is it.
And I think I'm finished with it too. I've wanted to talk about it just because of my twisted dark side, but
congratulations. Yeah. If you ever want to talk about it again, find someone else.
Find someone else. Someone who doesn't understand what they're going to go through because of it. Okay, we need to end on a happy note. Tell me, BJ, what is your favorite thing about Star Wars? We can end on that.
There's no joy in Mudville. There's no joy from this.
No joy.
All I can see is pain and darkness.
It's like what Frodo said. I don't know the taste of strawberries. I only have darkness now. Don't worry, Mr. Frodo. Soon we'll be back in the Shire. We'll have the taste of strawberries. Okay. It'll be peaceful again. I don't feel any of those things, Sam. All I feel is dark and horrible.
Is there a volcano I could throw
there's a scene.
I could throw this into hell, just destroy all copies of it.
Yeah, it's going to take a long journey, and you're going to have to carry it, and it's going to be a heavy burden on your soul the whole time. But if you throw it into the volcano, it'll be gone forever, and the world will be free of the holiday special once and for all.
The closer you get,
the symbol of all greed and pride.
The closer you get to Mount Doom, the clearer the creepy hologram scene comes up in your mind.
Yeah. And you go into a trance. A terrible, terrible trance. Snap out of it. Snap out of it. You see how all entertainment just is analogous to each other somehow? The Lord of the Rings totally fits our situation.
I'm sure that was exactly what Tolkien meant when he...
Yeah, that's his... Yep.
They say that Tolkien they say that Tolkien Ren allegory, but it turns out the One Ring is an allegory for the Star Wars holiday special.
Yeah. He was a very visionary man who knew that the Star Wars holiday special would come out.
Oh no.
And destroying it would be an epic journey.
We need to stop this now. We need to end this.
It needs to end.
That's it. We're turning around.
That's it. We're turning around.
If only the movie had ended there. Or now you have me calling it a movie. Dang it.
What's so bad about calling it a movie?
I don't know. It's not technically a movie.
A movie is like a picture that moves, and then it becomes a movie.
I feel like if you call this a movie, you're like somehow entering it into the canon. But then again, I suppose nowadays Star Wars canon isn't what it used to be. But anyway, we're about to get depressing again instead of laughing at the end about throwing the Star Wars holiday special into Mount Doom or whatever the heck we were talking about.
Yeah.
We appear to have failed our sanity check.
We definitely did.
Okay, so it's been unanimous. Do not watch.
Do not.
Do not watch.
Stay away. Save yourself.
Save yourself.
Avoid the planet Earth at all costs.
It's too late for us.
That's from Star Trek 4. Save your energy. Save yourself. Avoid the planet Earth at all costs. Okay. Avoid this movie. Avoid it.
Okay, so on that note, as per usual, we're ending a Star Wars conversation with Star Trek. Or Star Trek conversation with Star Wars. I don't know.
Nobody knows. Okay.
Okay.
But the point is we're ending it now.
It's over. I'm BJ. With me was Jeff. It's all his fault. This was the Wandering Tangent. Wandering Tangent Tadcast.
Okay.
Tangent. It's over. We're ending there. Thank you for listening to the Wandering Tangent podcast. We'll watch something better next time, I swear.
We don't need alcohol to be drunk, apparently.
No.
It's just a natural part of our personality.
Just lose sanity. Anyway, we're stopping now. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.